Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring and the third instalment in my series Stick to the Script, where I give my thoughts on a game working from a script. Today I'm looking at Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, adapting a written review from a few years ago. I hope you enjoy the video and consider liking and subscribing at the end. Some out-of-production games demand a reprint. Some games deserve to be repackaged, updated and made available to the masses so people do not have to pay obscene prices on eBay. Some games are so timeless and superb that they should always be in print, and the world seems incomplete without them. I truly believe that the original Warhammer Quest is not one of them. It's crazy fun, but it's also a crazy mess. It's awkward and ungainly, with kludgy rules and rubbish monster AI, and it really just shows its age a bit. I love the game, I really do. But it's a love soaked in sepia-toned nostalgia. I lost so many hours as a child in the world of Warhammer Quest, and I had some of the best fun of my formative years hacking up goblins and dying miserable deaths in random cave-ins. Warhammer Quest was expansive and engaging. It breathed life into a vibrant, massive world and gave you multiple ways to play within that world. It was a solo game, a co-op game, a one versus many game, and a role-playing game in a box. It was everything that I wanted a fantasy game to be. I will always love it. I will always remember it fondly. But that doesn't mean I want to play it anymore. In recent years, I've tried to introduce Warhammer Quest to many people, and those that didn't grow up playing it just didn't like it. And when I've tried to play it solo, well, let's just say it's hard to revisit the past. Now I realise there are going to be a lot of people who disagree with me. There's always going to be a lot of people who disagree with me. That's okay. If you love the original Warhammer Quest, that's fantastic and I'm truly happy you enjoy the game. But for me, I was looking for something, not necessarily more, but something different. I'm pleased to say Silver Tower is not just a new coat of paint on an old gaming system. This is something entirely new, and yet something not altogether unfamiliar. From the moment you look at the box art, anybody who has played the original is going to get a sense of déjà vu. The composition of the artwork, the characters, the classic Warhammer Quest lettering. It's like somebody reached into the past, took the original and then twisted it. It's no surprise the theme for the game involves fighting the followers of Tzeentch, Games Workshop's god of change, innovation and evolution. Tzeentch takes the mundane and makes it spectacular. He corrupts what you know and makes it new again. He takes your dreams and memories and fashions them into a new paradise. It's a beautiful piece of thematic integration, which I have to believe was a conscious decision. A sort of meta design that makes the theme part of the physical product in a way that I haven't seen since Games Workshop released Deathwatch Overkill. For years, we screamed for a reprint of Warhammer Quest. And somewhere in the void, Tzeentch heard us. Our dreams empowered the changer of the ways, and in our wish he found the spark to kindle a new fire. He offered up the Silver Tower, and he welcomed us all. The result is a game that feels fresh and new and vibrant, yet if you stare at it hard enough and squint a bit, there are recognisable elements beneath the shimmering surface. And what a shimmering surface it is. Beautiful miniatures for 6 heroic characters and a great selection of enemies. 3 bosses, acolytes, beastmen, demons, and even some cute chaos familiars. Thick cardboard tiles with some of the most glorious artwork ever devised for a board game, and hold on. I'm going to talk about those tiles a bit more, because they deserve it. They are superb. The artwork is bold and brilliant, and perfectly captures the true essence of Tzeentch. Swirling patterns, unusual angles, platforms overhanging a starlit void, and slavering mouths that gibber the secrets of the universe. Best of all, the squares of the movement grid don't perfectly align, meaning there is no such thing as orthogonal movement or diagonal movement. There's just movement. It's such a subtle thing, but it truly captures the chaotic nature of a tower where the normal rules do not apply, and it actually makes movement feel a bit more fluid and natural compared to moving around a regimented chessboard-style grid. Anyway, where was I? Let's see, miniatures, tiles, thick tokens, nice cards in 2 sizes, and 2 beautifully put together books. The first book is the rules, which actually looks and reads more like a glossy magazine than anything else, with massive double-page pictures of the game in action and box outs everywhere. The rules adopt a relatively user-friendly approach to your first game, stepping you through the process step by step so you can start playing your first game while you are reading. However, the layout is a bit of a mess, and it is tricky to find rules clarifications when you need them. And we'll talk more about the rules book later on. The second book is the beating heart of the game, a glossy tome containing short paragraphs of flavour text paired with new rules and special events that happen throughout the course of the game. This approach to semi-randomised adventures is absolutely integral to the design of the game, which is a fully co-op and soloable experience. There are 3 times when you may need to reference the book. At the start of the game as the introduction to the quest, as the result of revealing a special type of room while exploring, or as the result of an unexpected event. In the first 2 cases, the game specifies which paragraph you need to read, a bit like a choose-your-own-adventure game book, but for unexpected events you roll 2 dice to get a number between 11 and 66. You flip to the correct paragraph, and then you see what horrible thing happens next. It's a simple game mechanism that has the potential to create wonderful stories, filled with daring adventure and startling revelations. I particularly like that all the text is in the past tense. It feels like you are reading from a book of history, recounting the ordeals of famous heroes who are remembered years after their demise. It also instills a wonderful sense of unease in the players, a sense that your fate is preordained and you are simply following a path laid out by the changer of the ways. It's just beautiful storytelling. But I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself here, so let's take a step back. What exactly is Silver Tower all about? Thematically, it offers a much richer experience than many other dungeon plungers. Rather than the story of a group of tomb raiders delving into a dungeon to face a grab bag of monsters that wouldn't really live together, Silver Tower recounts the tale of a group of heroes who all find themselves in a powerful Chaos Wizard's tower at the same time. Each hero is a mystery, but all of the heroes are in the same boat, and they must form an uneasy alliance in order to survive. Followers of Chaos stride into battle alongside pious war priests, and surly dwarves fight back to back with Stormcast Eternals, the godlike warriors of Sigmar. Each hero has 4 health points, which also represent their ability to perform actions each turn. When your hero activates, you roll 1 dice for each health point remaining. The results of this roll dictate what you can then do on the turn. For example, every hero can discard a dice with a value of 1 or more to move, recover lost wounds, explore a new location by laying a new map tile to extend the board, or make a basic combat attack. Each character also has more powerful attack options and special abilities that trigger by discarding dice with a higher value. The system is very intuitive, and what makes it particularly interesting is the way that every time your hero takes a wound, you lose a possible action. This is a great way to simulate how the accumulation of wounds affects your combat prowess, and reminds me very much of the fantastic claustrophobia, which is absolutely a very good thing. Most of the time, heroes are going to be hitting monsters over the head, but if they are next to an exit point on a tile, they have the chance to explore. This involves discarding a dice to draw the top card from a pre-generated dungeon deck. The card specifies which tile to place, what monsters to spawn, which usually involves randomly generating a horde by rolling on a monster chart, and occasionally, which section of the adventure book to read from. After all the heroes have finished moving, exploring and making their point with a range of sharp implements, the monsters get to retaliate using a very simple and efficient AI system. Each monster type has a set of statistics and special rules, plus a table of commands that control them. For each type, roll a dice and consult the relevant entry in the table to see what they do. The game falls into a pattern of the heroes performing their actions and then the monsters fighting back. In this way, Silver Tower feels like an optimization puzzle. Monsters aren't hard to kill, but the skill comes from using your limited actions in the right order and in the right combinations to remove as many enemies as possible. Clever play makes it possible to control the threat, but if you get it wrong, things can turn ugly very quickly. You only have to pick up a few wounds for your hero to lose a lot of effectiveness, and even the weakest enemies can get lucky and cause serious harm when the chance arises. But that's pretty much it. That's Silver Tower in a nutshell. There are powerful items to find, a nifty destiny dice mechanism that has the potential to gift you more actions on your turn, but may also result in an unexpected event or the arrival of a pesky chaos familiar. And over the course of the game, you collect renown which grants access to new skills. But overall, the game is pretty straightforward. and it's an absolute joy because of that simplicity. It's the most pick up and play dungeon crawl I have ever seen, and yet it doesn't skimp on decisions either. Positioning is important, choosing the right skills to play is important, exploring at the right time is important, and because many items are single use and your health is directly tied to your potential actions, there is some resource management in there too. It really doesn't sound like much when you lay out the mechanisms in a review like this. It's something you really have to experience. Pure, streamlined fun. But as always, this isn't perfect. Games Workshop games are never perfect. It's almost a part of their charm. I mean, it would be part of their charm if the issues weren't so teeth-grindingly frustrating. The first major issue isn't really a fault with the design of the Silver Tower, it's more an inherent fault with any type of dungeon crawl. The first few turns aren't very exciting. You line up your characters, reveal the first room, spawn some monsters, and you're away. But your mighty heroes have no treasure to use, a handful of basic combat attacks, and one or two special powers that they may or may not be in a position to trigger. Your options are purposefully limited, and those first few turns often feel a little bit like going through the motions. You bash in a few heads with brute force and copious dice rolling, rather than through cleverly employing particular skill sets and tactics. The situation changes rapidly. Characters are going to start picking up treasure within a few turns, and learning new skills shortly after that, but those initial turns in a new campaign often feel like a bit of a slog. And speaking of campaigns, well, there sort of isn't one. The original Warhammer Quest featured a wonderful campaign system that allowed heroes to go to town, level up their stats, and spend ill-gotten money on new equipment. But Silver Tower just doesn't. The entire game recounts a single adventure, the tale of heroes thrown together by the winds of change to overcome a series of obstacles inside a tower of evil. There is no popping down the shops for some Pringles and a bottle of white lightning. Once you are inside the tower, you are there until your campaign ends. However it ends. That's not to say there isn't some progression between the adventures provided in that wonderfully written adventure book. It is possible to play each quest to form a coherent narrative, and there are rules for using the same characters from quest to quest, which involves rolling to see if you get to keep treasure cards and keeping a certain number of skills you have learned in the previous game based on how far through the campaign you are. It's not really a fully fledged campaign system, but it's enough for me, and over time you get to hone your skill set, picking up new skills, discarding old ones, to create a character that plays to your preferences. And I should mention here that this method of crafting a hero is very appealing to me. Skills are drawn at random, and you can only keep so many at the end of a game. This means your hero constantly evolves, constantly changes. You don't get stuck playing one type of hero using the same techniques and tactics over and over again. Gradually, you get to swap out skills you don't like and replace them with ones that you do. And each hero has a specific set of keywords that often enable them to use certain skills more effectively. This encourages you to keep swapping out skills and experimenting with combinations. It's on-the-fly character creation, adapting to what the game throws at you. And that's just exciting. What I particularly like about the pseudo-campaign system is that it focuses more on the narrative than the persistence of treasure and skills, or even the characters in the party. The full campaign is the story of a large number of people within the tower at the same point. Sometimes those characters meet, forming a heroic group for a single mission. In the next mission, certain characters may leave to follow their own goals, and new heroes arrive to take their place. There are no constraints, and you have the option to swap characters at will. The result is the ability to weave a wonderful tapestry of heroic endeavours, with characters dropping in and out of each other's stories at will. It's an absolutely perfect way to reflect how the Silver Tower is an ever-changing labyrinth of horrors, bent to the whims of a chaos sorcerer who may occasionally push heroes together for his own amusement. The theme, the mechanisms, the art, the adventure book, it all works together to create a unique style of storytelling that draws inspiration from many other games, and yet changes it, forming it into something new and wonderful. A gift from the changer of the ways. But chaos gifts come with a cost. Sanity is currency, and too long in the presence of demons can send you over the edge. The rulebook for Silver Tower is the gateway to a land of ever-changing horrors, fragments of half-remembered knowledge, and some pretty vague writing. I'm not going to go into all the details, but the rules for Respite, a special sequence of events that occurs when there are no monsters on the board, are an absolute mess. There are about 6 interpretations of the rules as written, and they were eventually changed completely in an FAQ. Furthermore, Games Workshop decided to publish all of the stats and tables for the monsters in the back of the rulebook. This is incredibly inconvenient, and I honestly don't see why they couldn't have included some stat cards in the box. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have broken the bank. Of course, eventually, after the release of Shadows over Hammerhall, Games Workshop did produce a pack of adversary cards with stats for most of the Chaos units in their expansive range. Good luck finding those cards now, though. But perhaps the game's greatest failing, a failing for me, I should add, is that it just isn't very good as a solo experience. Don't get me wrong, the mechanisms all work well when you play the game alone. It is easy to control several heroes, the rules are straightforward, and there isn't a lot of bookkeeping to worry about. The problem is that the game mechanisms demand that you constantly flick through the adventure book to read out passages of text that progress the story. It feels like a social storytelling experience. Playing the game alone, I lacked someone to share my epic story with. I lacked a group to gasp at the horrors, cheer at the successes, and really experience this unfolding narrative. Alone, without friends, finding the correct passages of text and reading them started to feel mechanical rather than fun. It started to feel too much like I could see the cogs whirring beneath that shimmering surface of the story. I could feel the way the Changer of the Ways was manipulating me. It's difficult to explain, and I suspect a lot of people do enjoy it solo, so if it works for you as a solo experience, great, I am happy for you. I just wish it worked for me the same way. But that's okay, because I don't need this game to be a solo experience, and thankfully, as a way to spend time with friends, it is a pleasure. It is simple, elegant, evocative, thematically rich, easy to learn, quick to play, fun, and beautiful. Some out-of-production games demand a reprint. Some games deserve to be repackaged, updated, and made available to the masses so people do not have to pay obscene prices on eBay. Some games are so timeless and superb that they should always be in print, and the world seems incomplete without them. I truly believe that the original Warhammer Quest is not one of them. Fortunately, it seems that Games Workshop agrees. Silver Tower is not Warhammer Quest. It shares some of that older game's DNA. It shares some of the ideas. But those building blocks of design have drifted for too long in the warp. They have experienced the touch of the Changer of the Ways. They have mutated, evolved. They have become glorious.